Now in this video we're going to be actually making our inventory show both the image of the items that we have as well as the items, well, as well as which slot has an item. So these are all, here for example, whoops. Let's say I come over here and I pick up this medkit and I open my inventory. Here's going to be an image of the medkit, and all these other little slots here, they're going to be grayed out. So we can't really, so we know, just so we can display our inventory and show the rest of them as empty slots. Make it easier to see that way, instead of having them be bright white. So one thing, there will be a download link in the description if I remember. It would be the icons for all three items. So I've already imported these, so if you go over here to our meshes, and for example in the medkit, you'll see I have medkit icon. If you want to import them, you simply right click, import to, find the image. For instance, I just called it health, but it'll be named appropriately, and you just import it, and that's all. So first thing is, let's go ahead and actually modify our items to take in a icon. So if we go over here to our pickups, let's make another U property, edit anywhere, so we can edit inside the editor. We need to forward declare it, so class, I think it's just texture 2D, and I'm going to call it icon. U texture 2D, I think, actually. Maybe. Then over here, we're going to create a default subobject. So mesh, I'm an idiot, icon equals create default subobject, U texture 2D. Yeah, that's what it is. And icon texture. Let's go ahead and include it, so I know it's off the engine. So include engine / texture 2D.h, and we should be good to go there. So let's go ahead and build. Yeah, it should be right. Alright. Now let's open up our blueprints here. So we have our food, health, that was not health, and our water. So BP food, search for icon, and you'll see here, icon texture, I called it food can icon, compile and save, health, same thing. Just search for medkit icon, compile save, and our water. Water icon, compile and save. Let's make sure it actually transferred to these objects that we already have placed. So icon, it did not. So just gonna do this real quick. Water and food, which was right there. Alright, gonna go ahead and save. Double check, water and medkit. Okay. So now our items have an icon that we can get access to. Although we're gonna have to make a blueprint callable function in order to actually access it. So now in the inventory UI, here when we open it up in our constructor here, what our idea is, we're going to get our character. We do need to cast it to a survival character type, and then we get access to our inventory from that. So we're going to make a blueprint callable function that gets access to our inventory component. So we can go ahead and write that real quick in C++. So under, which I've actually already done to make sure it is correct, but if you look under here, just under protected, I did mine right below begin play, get inventory component, so Control-Shift-B, and if we go over here to actually see I can't think of what it's called, the definition of the function, all you can see here is it returns our inventory component. So inventory is simply that. It's literally our pointer to our inventory component. So now we need to get our character in blueprint. So get player character, cast to survival character. I'm going to go ahead and move this stuff out of the way. And if the cast looks successful, we will be running. So, as survival character, we're going to go get inventory component. We're going to check if it's valid. And from there, we simply... Actually, it's probably better to make a function for this real quick. So let's go ahead and make a new function. I'm going to call it get player inventory. Component. That's excessively long. Meh. Oh, where is it to return? Outputs. So the type is going to be inventory object reference. Yeah, so now we can actually just simply copy what we already just did. So copy and paste. And connect everything up. Oops. Alrighty, so we have our function, so get inventory component. Alright, so let's just do a valid check. So it is valid. Dang it. And branch. Alright, so we have our inventory component. So right now we don't have any way to actually access our inventory items, which, because we are using a kind of a loop-based dealio, I'm going to want to get access to the amount of items as well. And instead of doing that in Blueprint, which we obviously could do, you might as well do that in C++, since we may end up needing that feature on that inventory, our inventory class anyways. So we're going to make two functions inside of our inventory.h. So these are going to be blueprint callable. So u function blueprint callable. And then first one will just get access to our inventory items. So it's going to be a t. I'm just going to copy this. It's going to be a t array. Get inventory items. And then another one, u function blueprint callable. Int 32 is going to be the return type. Get inventory cat. No. Inventory. Get current inventory count. Yeah. Good enough. So for get inventory items, let's go and create a definition. We're simply going to return items. So, whoops, dang it. And for get current inventory count, we're going to return items dot num minus 1. So with counting with their T arrays, so let's say we have 5 items. We will, I'm trying to think about how to, actually, do we want to do that? We'll leave it just as the actual amount right now. So let's go ahead and build. So I know with T arrays, and you call it .num. If you have one item in there, it'll return 1. So it depends on if we're going to be using this kind of based on its index or not. Alrighty, so our inventory component. Let's call get, crap, what did I call it? get current inventory count, get current inventory count, and its return value is going to be our index for our loop. Then we're going to just connect it. So for testing, let's go ahead and try it out. We should have nothing. Alright, we have 1. I don't know why I have 1. Actually, I wonder. Oh, by the way, almost forgot. Currently, we do have our variable set to replicate, like our items with our owner, but we have not set up this class to actually replicate. So while the server knows what our items array is and its contents, our client, our owner, like the owner of it, does not. So in our constructor, do b replicates and set it to true. I wonder by chance if that was the issue. Inventory count. Oh, why are you showing 1? No, but if we pick up another object, it should hopefully show 2. Okay, it does. And 3 and 4. Missed it. 4. Okay. So yeah. Inventory.num minus 1. So I guess that actually was the case. Alrighty. So we now have nothing, and then if we pick up an item, we have something. Alright. So now we're off to a good start here. So what do we next? We can do a for each loop through our items. So currently we do not need the count, but we will want to get the items. So get inventory items. I'm going to do a for, is there a get? We're just going to do a for each loop. Alrighty. So now we create our, alright, so we're looping through the items in our inventory. So currently our, will be this widget. So our inventory element. Let's go ahead and get rid of our pre-construct and event tick. Compile save. Alright, we need a way to actually store the reference to our item. So let's, alright, on our inventory element, like our each individual squares, let's create a new variable. I'm going to call this one item reference, and under the variable type, do pickups. Make it an object reference. Now this one's going to need to be instance editable and expose on spawn. So compile and save, and if we look over here, might need to refresh, I don't know. Let's try closing and reopening. Yep. Trying to think, that should be the case to make it so you have an extra whatchamajigger to pass in. Let's try create widget, inventory element. Okay, now it shows. So that was why. Alrighty, so as you can guess, we're looping through our items, which is an array of pickups. So each array element is going to be one of our pickups. So I'm going to do a check here. Is valid and branch. That is not alt. So if it is valid, then we are going to be creating a slot with our item. Oh, duh. Just wondering what that was going to. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and neaten this up a bit. Screw it. Okay, so we get access to our inventory. If the inventory is valid, we go ahead and get our items in said inventory, and we want to loop through all of them. For each item, we'd want to make sure that the item is in fact valid, so we don't have any null pointers. And then if it is, we simply pass the item to our widget, which we need to do something with, and then we add it to our inventory, like as a little block. So in our inventory element, let's go ahead and set that up. So under designer, remember we have to do an icon, so under image underscore 97, or whatever yours is, let's call this item icon. Then under the button, this is what's going to be, we're going to be kind of graying out. So by default, I want this to be grayed out. And if we pass in a valid item to it, I want to make it just show color in the image. If that makes sense. So under appearance, make sure your button is selected. Color and opacity. Let's just lower the alpha channel. I'll do 0.15. That should be fine. Yeah, that'll be fine. And then we want to trying to think here. So we're going to do check. We're going to go ahead and get our item reference. We're going to do valid. And then branch off of that to check if it is valid. Alright, so this is going to be what's going to determine whether or not an item was passed into our inventory. Our little box there. So if this returns true, meaning we passed in a valid item, it's not just an empty null pointer, we will make our button not grayed out. We'll bring its its alpha back up so it's not so transparent, and we will assign an icon to our texture, our item icon image there. So let's go ahead and ungrade the button. So drag out our B item, or button item, and just search for, I think it's opacity. Yes, set color and opacity. And we need an N. So let's right click anywhere, color and opacity. Not what I wanted. Color and opacity. Is there a way to just create? Let's try a new variable. Try that. So to the type, color, and okay, what would it be? Linear color structure. Error color structure. Make linear color. Yay, that's it. Alright, so just 1, 1, 1, 1. Done. So we're going to use that for now. So now we should have nothing still. When we pick up an item, we should have a bright white box, just to be sure. We do. And let's set this 0 point. Actually, let's just break the line real quick and try it. So nothing changes, to see if it is recognizing it. So nothing. Now we should have a gray box, which we do. Okay, so this is working. So from here, this is where we would set our item icon, but we do not have access to that yet. So let's see, what do I want to do here? I guess we'll do the icon last. So we know that, because we know that setup's good to go. So we're only creating a box for each item that we have currently. And we have a total of 16 slots, so yeah, 4x4, that need to be created. So after the for each loop has completed, let's get current inventory count. So after it's completed, so we get our current inventory. So if we want to go, what is it, minus integer minus integer. So I'm thinking 15 minus our inventory count might be right. I think. Yeah, it should lead us to the right thing. So then we simply create more slots that are going to be empty. So hopefully this should show, nope, that's showing 1. 15 minus, wait, that ain't right. Oh, duh, need a loop. So for loop, nope, you're going to be the last index. Alrighty. Now this should be correct, hopefully. Alright, there's one too many. Let's just do 14 and see what happens. Okay, so we have our empty inventory here. Now hopefully when I pick up an item, it should still show the correct amount. That did not work quite right. Alright, so we got a little bug going on. So let's figure this out. That it should just be in this section that's causing the issue. Let's just see what happens real quick, out of curiosity. Same thing should happen. Does not. So it might actually be in this section here. Oh, that's why I set the alpha to 0 for some reason. I'm an idiot. So now, here's our current inventory. We pick up an item. I'll show you picking up 2. We should have 2 white boxes. There we go. So this one would be our medkit, this one would be our water, and these are all empty. So now we can actually set the icon, now that we have everything set up that way. So under our pickups.h, we're going to make another public function. Void, no, class texture 2D, get item icon. Create a definition, and we're simply going to return icon. Alright, Control-Shift-B. And this should be the last thing that we have to do. And then we can actually start. I'm going to end up probably going through it to make sure everything's good to go before we start adding features like using return and derp. Ah, crap. Cancel. There it is. And Control-Shift-B now. UTexture 2D. I keep forgetting that for some reason. Yeah, my throat feels like it's locking up too. Can't hardly speak. Okay. So now if it is valid, inventory item reference, get item icon. Item icon. heck? Get item icon. Fascinating. Unless the naming is an issue. Let's rename the image. So item icon for image, or no, yeah. Alright, now let's see. Get item icon. You know, it really makes it a lot easier if you actually remember to make this blueprint callable. Like an idiot. And undo. Alrighty. Now off the item reference, get item icon. Yay! So we're actually going to make this go over here. So let's actually do a valid check. Check context sensitive, so you get the right one. Branch. So if our icon is valid, we will simply set our item icon, so we're going to get that. Texture, set brush from texture. And the texture is going to be our icon. I'm going to be cleaning these up with functions too, so here in a minute. Alright, so our inventory is empty. Now, fingers crossed, we should have a medkit, which we do. Here we are. So there's our health medkit. Let's do water and food. Yep, there's our health, our medkit, our water, and our can of beans. So that's actually going kind of smooth, that ain't right. Alright, so I want to make two functions in here. Call this one set button valid. And that's going to be, actually let's make it take in of something. It's going to be inventory. Object reference. No. Not taking anything. I don't know if I need to compile it first. So drag this one out. So what that's going to do is going to be, go ahead and copy everything that sets our button to being bright colored, like the white. Then we simply, dang it, call it, and then we can make another function for setting an icon. So set slot icon, and that is going to be the rest. So copy. We do need to probably pass in a, I think we need to pass something in. Yeah, because this is going to throw an error. Yep. So we need to pass in our item. So inventory object reference. Wait, no. Pickup. Duh. Pickup object reference. Call it item. Dang it. And connect. Now compile. Okay. So set slot icon, and the item is going to be the item reference. Alright, that looks pretty clean. Let's make sure that didn't break anything. Alright, still good. Missed it. Alright. So that's good there. We have our two functions, so let's go into our inventory UI and clean up this monstrosity. So I'm going to do another function, create empty slots. And how do I want to use this? Let's make it take in a variable. And int. Is there an int32? Meh, just leave it. Alright, call this empty slot count. So we're going to copy this here and paste it in. And now we call it, and we're going to simply pass in the amount of items we need. Let's rename that. That should still work. Or not. Probably helps if I connect it. Alright, so let's rename that variable real quick. Current item count. That makes more sense. Okay, now let's create one for create inventory slot, or create valid item slot, something like that, we'll call it. Create valid item slot. We can always rename it. It's going to close you. We're going to put in, so we're going to make it take in a variable. It's going to be pickups, object reference. And we're going to copy this portion here. And the is valid check. So copy and delete. And paste. So the passed in parameters, passed in parameter is going to be the inventory item. We're going to check if it's valid. If it is, then we create the inventory. Alright, what's the issue? It's not a panel widget, so we need to get, be the target, wouldn't it? Oh, duh. And we need our inventory wrap reference. Like so. Now we're good. So let's go ahead and call create valid item slot. Probably would hope if we rename the parameter to, let's just call it item. Like so. Alright, that's looking a lot cleaner. Let's check and make sure it works. So empty inventory, medkit, water, can of food. Didn't work. Cool. Alright, what broke? I'm an idiot. Empty inventory, water, or food, click it. There we go. Water, meds. Alright. So we're actually good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and give a quick rundown. As usual. Okay. Starting from the beginning. What in the world did I just click? Okay, so from the start, when we press I, we call to open up our inventory UI. And when this is being constructed, what we do is we call our function that gets our inventory component. So that's simply, we get our own character, index 0, because we're always going to be slot 0 out of this index or array of players. We're going to cast it to our survival character type, which is our C++ class. Then we're going to call our function to get our inventory component, and we're simply going to return that. So from there, we want to make sure that inventory component is valid. Then we simply call our function to get our inventory items, which is another C++ class that is in our inventory component. Call right here. So get inventory items. Now we made this blueprint callable, so obviously we can call it from blueprint like this. Now it returns an array, as you can tell by that grid looking thing, and we're going to iterate through it. So on a for each loop, we have our loop body and completed. So this is, the loop body is going to be what's running on each loop, and completed is going to be like what's running after it. So it's going to be like one of these pins here to execute something else. So for every single index, or every single valid item we have in our inventory, we call our function to create a valid item slot. That simply, we're going to check and make sure the item that was passed in, or the pickup, is valid. And if it is, then we create our new widget, which is our inventory element. And we have a pin here to pass in a variable to our widget, our inventory element widget. So that's going to create it. So when it creates it, if item reference is in fact valid, we're going to call our set button valid function, which is simply going to make it solid white with full opacity or alpha channel, whatever you want to call it, meaning it's not going to be transparent. Then, because we know the button is valid, we're going to go ahead and set its icon as well. So calling our set icon, or set slot icon. Actually, why am I passing that in? Let's go ahead and get rid of our item reference here. That is not needed. We can just simply go off of our actual item reference that we already have, since we're already doing a check anyways. Yeah, because it shouldn't run unless it's valid. So we can go straight from here to here and remove our input pin. Alright, so since we know it's valid, we're going to call our set slot icon, which is going to call on the pickup item itself our own blueprint callable function called getItemIcon, which simply returns the assigned texture 2D that we assigned it. And if that is valid and not a null pointer, we set the icon to that texture, which is this here, our item icon. Let me make sure I didn't screw anything up by changing those little things. Yeah, we're still good. So let's say it's gone through all of those, meaning there are no more items in our inventory, and we need a bunch more empty slots in our inventory. So here we're going to be creating a bunch of empty slots. So our create empty slots function, this simply is going to get our current amount of items, and we're going to have that amount be we're going to take the number 14 and subtract our current amount of items from that value. So if we have 2 items, it's going to go down and create, well, less. That's just freaking subtraction. Then we have a for loop for that value, so we're starting at 0 and working our way up to whatever this produces. And we are going to simply create our inventory elements but without passing in an item reference, so this is not valid. It is going to simply do nothing. So like, here, duh. So because it's not going to be valid, this false pin would run, not the true pin. So it's not going to set the button valid, and it's not going to set the slots icon. It's just going to maintain it being gray. So, all in all, that'll give you an empty inventory and allow you to have a set of icons and everything like that. So, hopefully that was pretty useful. And I will see you in the next one where we continue on with this.